Please be seated, everyone. Let the record reflect the presence of the jury panel, the defendant, and counsel. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, have you reached verdicts?
We have.
The foreperson would please give the verdict forms to Kim. The clerk will read the verdicts.
Verdict count 1. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 1, murder in the first degree, felony murder of Foy Shripin Prosser as follows. Guilty, signed foreperson. Verdict count 2. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 2, murder in the first degree of Fra Somsak Sofa as follows. Guilty. As to the verdict of guilty, we further find the verdict based upon the following. 12 jurors find premeditated murder, 12 jurors find felony murder, signed foreperson. Verdict count 3. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 3, murder, first degree, of Framaha Injin Gao as follows. Guilty. As to the verdict of guilty, we further find the verdict based upon the following. 12 jurors find premeditated murder, 12 jurors find felony murder, signed foreperson. Verdict count 4. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 4, murder, first degree, of Fra Surichai Anataro as follows. Guilty. As to the verdict of guilty, we further find the verdict based upon the following. 12 jurors find premeditated murder, 12 jurors find felony murder, signed foreperson. Verdict count 5. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 5, murder, first degree, of Boy Chirasak Chirapong as follows. Guilty. As to the verdict of guilty, we further find the verdict based upon the following. 12 jurors find premeditated murder, 12 jurors find felony murder, signed foreperson. Verdict count 6. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 6, murder, first degree, of Fra Hairat Kantong as follows. Guilty. As to the verdict of guilty, we further find the verdict based upon the following. 12 jurors find premeditated murder, 12 jurors find felony murder, signed foreperson. Verdict count 7. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as murder, first degree, of Matthew Miller as follows. Guilty. As to the verdict of guilty, we further find the verdict based upon the following. 12 jurors find premeditated murder, 12 jurors find felony murder, signed foreperson. Count 8. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 8, murder, first degree, of Framaha Chalam Chajapin as follows. Guilty. As to the verdict of guilty, we further find the verdict based upon the following. 12 jurors find premeditated murder, 12 jurors find felony murder, signed foreperson. Verdict counts 9. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 9, murder, first degree, of Phra Boom Choi Chayaran as follows. Guilty. As to the verdict of guilty, we further find the verdict based upon the following. 12 jurors find premeditated murder, 12 jurors find felony murder, signed 4 persons. Verdict count 10. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 10, armed robbery of Phoy Shripan Prosert as follows. Guilty, signed 4 persons. Verdict count 11. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 11, armed robbery of Phra Somsak Sofa as follows. Guilty, signed 4 persons. Verdict count 12. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 12, armed robbery of Pramaha Sinjin Gao as follows. Guilty, signed 4 persons. Verdict count 13. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 13, armed robbery of Phra Sri Chai Anataru as follows. Guilty, signed 4 persons. Verdict count 14. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 14, armed robbery of Boy Chirasak Chirapong as follows. Guilty, signed 4 persons. Verdict count 15. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 15, armed robbery of Phra Pairat Kantong as follows. Guilty, signed 4 persons. Verdict count 16. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 16, armed robbery, as to Matthew Miller as follows. Guilty, signed 4 persons. Verdict count 17. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 17, armed robbery of Ramaha Chalerm Chajapim as follows. Guilty, signed 4 persons. Verdict count 18. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 18, armed robbery of Phra Boom Choi Chayaran as follows. Guilty, signed 4 persons. Verdict count 19. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 19, burglary, first degree, as follows. Guilty, signed 4 persons. Verdict count 20. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths to find the defendant as to count 20, conspiracy to commit armed robbery as follows. Guilty, signed 4 persons. Are these your true verdicts, so say you one and all?
Yes. Do you wish to poll the jury?
Yes, please.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do now, Sarah Lynn's going to ask you individually if it's your true verdict, so she's going to go person by person to ask you the same question she just asked you collectively. Sarah Lynn?
Verdict, juror number 1, are these your true verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 2, are these your true verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 3, are these your true verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 4, are these your true verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 7, are these your true verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 8, are these your true verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 10, are these your true verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 12, are these your true verdicts? Juror number 13, are these your true verdicts? Juror number 14, are these your true verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 15, are these your true verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 16, are these your true verdicts?
Yes.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you have one more task, one more decision to make. We're not quite done yet. Kim is going to pass out to you now some more instructions. Let me tell you what this is. For 10 of the counts, the 9 armed robbery counts and the burglary count, the state is alleging that 2 aggravating circumstances exist. And in a moment, there's going to be very brief argument to you from the lawyers about whether aggravating circumstances exist. So you have about a page worth of instructions that I'm going to read to you to explain to you this phase and what's going to happen. And then you're going to make a determination about whether aggravating circumstances exist as to the armed robbery and the burglary counts.